Hey everyone, Angela here. Life can be challenging. Trust me, I get it. However, I have learned we can either view the opposition or value the opportunity. Ponder on the problem or praise the potential. Focus on the situation or find the solution. Despite the current circumstances you're going through, I invite you to join me today as we embark on a grand adventure to discover the reasons why it's a good time to be you.
Here's the encourager herself, making every day a good day, Angela Henderson.
Hey, all right. Welcome everybody to It's a Good Time to Be You, and we are so glad to have you here. This is a place where we enjoy and we celebrate life. You know, it is when we realize that life is important and life is a gift, then we realize that we have a lot to live for, which is what a young man that we're getting ready to introduce you today on our show experienced through a near-death experience. And so we're going to be encouraged and inspired through Travis Barrow today. But before we do that, we want to celebrate your life. And so I'm going to ask this beautiful lady here in the green, if she will, to stand up and share with us her birthday. You just give us the month and the number. August the 22nd. That is so beautiful. The month of August represents a time of leadership. It also represents human, being man. And when God created everything, He said it is good, including mankind, okay? You know, a lot of times we think, oh, man is evil, man is wicked. But man was good when God created him. Now, the only thing is that He realized man was alone. And so then when He created woman, He said it was very good. So you're very good. And so we're glad to have you with us. But in this leadership month, there's a lot here to be learned. It was named after Augustus Caesar, who was a leader. And in his younger years, he was a very brutal leader. But as he matured and as he grew, he became a leader who was revered. And so people respected him and they honored him. And so probably as you've grown throughout life, you know, you've also grown into many different levels of respect where people have learned to respect you. The number 22, is that correct? That represents a daughter of light. And so how beautiful that is. So everywhere you go, the light of Christ just shines through you. And you're not afraid to walk in darkness because you realize you're surrounded in the light. And so the light goes with you everywhere you go. So it's a good time to be you. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. Yes. You know, God is so amazing. And in His unique ideas and thoughts towards us, everything about us is purpose. It's intentional. Nothing, absolutely nothing is happenstance, but it serves a purpose in our lives. Even the numbers of your days. He says, I know them very well. He knows the number of your head, the hairs on your head. He knows those very well. And so He's very intricate in His thoughts towards you and in the design that He has for you. So today, again, we're getting ready to have a break, but when we come back, we're going to meet our guest, Mr. Travis Barrow. And I know that you are going to be encouraged and you're going to be inspired and you are going to be uplifted. I remember that there was a time in my life when I thought, what am I here for? What is it that I'm doing? You know, my life seems to be falling apart. My marriage is falling apart. My kids are being harassed. What's going on? And the Lord told me, Angela, it's a good time to be you. And I thought, have you lost your mind? Do you even see me? Do you know where I am right now? But I chose to believe those words that He spoke to my heart. And I got up, I brushed myself off. No longer was I going to be the drama queen or the victim, but I walked in victory from that day forward. And I encourage you to do the same thing. Life will always have challenges, always. But always remember, it is a good time to be you. So we'll be back in just a few seconds. Angela here. Welcome to our Mass Marvels segment, and we have found another marvelous person here today, Mr. Neil Levon of Neil Levon Creative Designs, and we are so excited to be able to encourage him. Neil,
please tell me, when is your birthday?
December 22nd.
December 22nd. I'm telling you, December is an amazing month. December means to rule, to reign, to govern, and to lead. And so you are definitely a born leader. And the number 22 represents the Son of Light. And so you are definitely a light that shines in darkness. And I think we were talking earlier, and you said that you've been in business for 7 years now, right? 7 represents completion. It also represents perfection. And so it's taken this time to kind of tweak some things and get some things ready so that now you are even being launched and you are going to be doing some amazing things. You're going to be the light in many people's lives, I see, throughout the world. And so get ready, because the best is yet to come for you, my friend.
Oh.
Now, do you have anything that you'd like to share to
That I love
encourage?
her. That I love her. She's amazing. That's it.
Well, he's amazing too. So you want to contact Neil Levon at Neil Levon Creative Designs and see what he can do for you. So Neil, at the count of 3, why don't we say it's a good time to be you?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. It's a good time to be you.
So today we have with us Mr. Travis Barrow, a gentleman who went from addiction and violence to restoration and discovering his purpose and his identity. So if you will, let's welcome Travis Barrow to the stage. Travis. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Good. Seat right here, please. Good deal. So Travis, how you doing today?
Doing good.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for just spending your time with us this morning, and we're glad to have you.
Good to be had.
That's good. I know, especially after your history and your background, you know. And why don't we just start there, Travis? Why don't you take us back a little bit and share a little bit about your background with us, about the addiction that, you know, that you suffered with, and just, you know, what happened in your life.
Okay, so when I was young, you know, my parents couldn't get along. I mean, even from the time I was born. And so they couldn't get along, and, you know, they separated. And so what that caused in me, you know, my dad left, and to me, he was leaving me. Through that separation, I started to believe the lie that no one would accept me for who I was because I felt that I'd been rejected. Okay. Now, that's not exactly what happened, but that's what I perceived as a child.
So that really does show you the importance of the role of father, but even as well as mothers, because there have been moms, you know, that have walked away from families too. So the parental role is so important in our lives.
Absolutely, especially in the developmental stages.
Yes.
Yeah, so what that produced in me was a desire to be accepted. I never wanted to experience that rejection again, so the opinions of other people dominated my life, and so I did whatever I needed to do or thought I needed to do to get people to like me. I mean, I would do everything from make stories up to tell my mom because I wanted that approval, I wanted that acceptance, and I did the same thing with my friends all the way up until middle school. And in middle school, at the end of middle school, we moved to Charleston, and so I was the new kid on the block, and I did whatever I had to do to fit in. And so I found a group of kids, you know, that I thought were cool, that I thought you know, I wanted to fit in with, and I did what they were doing, and it turns out they were partying. So I started partying at an early age, probably 13 or 14. We started partying, started smoking weed and doing all that stuff. And what I realized as I got older, I realized on the party scene anyway, the guys that were getting all of the respect, the guys that were getting all the attention, the guys that were getting everything that I wanted, the acceptance, were the guys that were getting in a lot of fights, the guys that were, you know, winning a lot of fights. And so that's what I did. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted people to like me, so I started fighting. I mean, it wouldn't be uncommon for me to be at a bar and walk up to someone I didn't even know and punch them in the face for no reason.
Wow.
So that led me, that kind of lifestyle, as you can imagine, led me down some pretty dark roads.
Well, share with us about that.
Yeah. So with the addiction, you know, just covering up, not comfortable with who I was, so I used the drugs to get out of who I was and being afraid of who I was and being afraid that people wouldn't accept me. And in order to be accepted, the violence was so bad, you know, liquor, cocaine, and violence is what it was for me. And so it got so bad one night, as a matter of fact, on July 2nd, 2008, me and a friend of mine had gotten into an altercation with a guy, and we actually went to the guy's house and went into his house and, you know, got into a fight. And the guy pulled out a knife and started stabbing people. He stabbed me first, and he stabbed Craig. And Craig didn't make it. Craig died. And I had to be, a buddy of mine, thank God he was outside. A buddy of mine was outside. He drove me to the hospital. I can remember coming over the connector as fast as his little Cobalt would go, and I lost so much blood that I was so weak I couldn't even hold my own wound. And so my buddy Dylan was driving a stick shift, and I told him, I was like, man, I can't even hold it. I can't even plug it. I don't even have enough strength. So he was plugging my wound and shifting gears with his hand coming over the connector. So when I got there, I had to be resuscitated. I had to have multiple blood transfusions.
So you were actually stabbed more than once. Was that not right?
Three times in the same incident.
Wow.
And this was the pride, the bravado. I actually looked at the guy and told him he wasn't going to stab me.
Wow.
Yeah, he brandished the knife, and I said, "You're not going to stab me."
And he did.
He sure did.
Wow. So after being stabbed 3 times, did your life just instantly change after that? I mean, did you have this encounter of, oh, okay, so maybe I need to change my way of life or change what I do or where I go?
So that was the initial tune when I was in the hospital. That's what I told everybody, but it didn't, as the thought of what happened had set in, it only served to perpetuate the tough guy mentality because, okay, this was my thinking. I got stabbed by a knife that killed another man, and it didn't kill me. So it only perpetuated that invincible tough guy thinking. And it was about 4 years after I had gotten stabbed that I still continued to live that lifestyle in an elevated manner because of what it had done to my mentality. Now I had a reputation. Now I was, the tough guy, not just a tough guy.
Wow. So what did you learn about yourself then in that situation, having that tough guy mentality, maybe feeling like you were invincible?
It was all a cover-up. I mean, it was all born out of insecurity. I might have appeared like a tough guy to some people, but it was because I didn't really know who I was.
Wow. And so in that, what happened afterwards, after you went through that stabbing, after you, went through those next 4 years? And 4, by the way, means productive and of the earth. So even though you walked through that time of where it didn't seem like you changed, your mindset only escalated, the ego and the mentality of feeling God's-like and invincible. It still served a purpose in your life. So what happened after that?
So in 2012, I realized that, long story short, I was lonely. I'd lost every job I'd ever had due to alcoholism. And nobody wanted to be around me because they didn't know who I was going to hit or what I was going to steal or, what. I was unpredictable. I was a loose cannon, and nobody wanted to be around me. So I realized that I needed to get some help. I ran into a friend of mine that had gotten help, and he appeared to be living the life. So a couple of jobs I lost after I ran into him, I decided that it was time to go ahead and do that.
Okay, and so where was that? Where did you go?
I went to the Owl's Nest in Florence, South Carolina.
Okay.
And so an interesting dynamic was my lifestyle had led me to having no money, having nothing. So I had to actually be snuck into the rehab because I didn't have the money to come in the front door.
So you were snuck into this rehab. Okay, so then what happened?
Well, the reason alcoholics or recovered alcoholics drink and drug is because of resentment, fear, and guilt, and a lot of identity issues.
Yeah.
And I didn't believe in God. I didn't have any conception of God, and this particular program required you to have a conception of God. And because I had been snuck into the rehab, and when you walk into the front door, they give you a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they give you a notebook. And I didn't get any of that stuff because I was snuck in. I came in the back door. And so everybody there has a big book. There's 100 residents, maybe 200 residents, and everybody's got a big book. And so you go to 5 meetings a day, and I would go to the meetings, and people were getting in trouble for not having a big book. So there's literally thousands of big books just laying around this whole place. It's like a big book boot camp. And I just picked up the first big book I could find, and that was my big book.
Yes.
So that was my big book for the next 2 years, and they continued to tell me that I needed my own conception of God, and it frustrated me because if God was real, then why had I gone through the things that I had gone through? If God was real, then why was I in rehab? If God was real, which he might have been, he didn't want anything to do with me.
Yes.
And so the guy told me, okay, well, that's fine. but you have to have a God to pray to. So you don't believe in God, but you can use my God.
Wow.
And I thought that was strange, but okay. And he said, there's one other catch. If God is real, would you believe in him?
We're going to come back and find out how Travis came to believe in God. Welcome back. We have with us here Travis Barrow, and he's sharing with us his story of how he had gone from addiction and drugs and alcoholism into a life of purpose and identity. And so, Travis, I had cut you off so quickly, but I wanted to get back to this big book. What made the big book that you just finally grabbed and found your own, because you were snuck into the rehab, so it wasn't like you were issued a book. What made this big book so significant for you?
Yeah. Well, it belonged to the guy that stabbed me.
Okay, now this is something that's crazy. So you waited 4 years, okay, after being stabbed in that incident. And so unbeknownst to you, the guy that was involved in the incident that stabbed you went on to make some changes in his life. And now here you are entering into a time where you feel like, I'm lonely, I need something more. And so in talking to another friend, you discover this opportunity. You're snuck in the back door of this rehab center. You don't have a book. And then the book that you happen to find is the guy that stabbed you.
Yeah, so I was standing in the yard smoking a cigarette, and one of the guys asked me, whose book do you have? Because the names are written on the side.
Yeah.
And he knew it wasn't my book, and as he was looking through it, he realized that it belonged to a curly-headed blonde guy. And when he said his name, I realized that it was the guy who stabbed me. For 2 weeks, I had been carrying around a big book that belonged to the guy who stabbed me. And the guy could have gone to any rehab in the country. His family was very wealthy, and for whatever reason, I happened to be at that rehab carrying that big book. And in that moment, I realized that God, not only was God real, but since God is real, I have to forgive this man.
Wow.
And that's, there was nothing, that was the only way I was going to believe in God if something like that happened.
So was that the moment then that you would say that your life began to make a change in the positive direction?
Absolutely. Because if God's real, then some changes have to happen.
And then what did happen?
I completely changed. I realized in that moment that I had a history of blaming my problems on everything around me. But shortly thereafter, after the revelation that God was real, I realized that I was the problem. And that's encouraging because I can't change my circumstances, but I can allow God to change me.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what we have to realize. Sometimes we spend our life trying to change ourselves and trying to make ourselves better. And there's nothing wrong with self-improvement. We need to do that. We need to always do things that are going to uplift us, that are going to encourage us, that are going to challenge us, that are going to make us think. But without God, this transformation is not possible. We have to have Him in our lives, and we have to have Him, operating through us to help us to forgive when, we wanted to kill. And so how beautiful is that? So life after rehab, tell us about that.
So I realized, after that, I realized, okay, God's real. And not only is He real, but so is His purpose for me. And that He didn't want everything that I had experienced, because I was a poster child for partying. I was a poster child for violence. I was a poster child for drug addiction. But now I can be a poster child for the solution. Now I can be a poster child for what God can do with someone if they will allow Him. And so I got an amazing sense of purpose out of that, because my life leading up to that point uniquely qualified me to minister to those who were experiencing the same things and have experienced the same things that I've experienced.
So now I'm seeing a ring on your fingers.
Yeah.
So there must be a Mrs. Barrow in your life.
Yep.
And
So after about 5 or 6 years of sobriety and really practicing and carrying the message and just loving other people and allowing God to work in my life and being obedient to God, I was in a position Met a beautiful Colombian woman named Maggie. She's my wife, and she's actually pregnant now.
Oh, that is awesome. Wonderful. So then, Travis, as this new role then that you're going to be walking into, father, let's go back to that, okay? Your father left you. You felt like it was because of you, or it was your fault, or who would love you. So what is it that you desire to be now, stepping into this role of father?
Oh man, I want to be a springboard for my children to accomplish the purpose that God has for them. I want to teach them from day one that they have a purpose, that there's a reason that they're here. Not that I didn't get taught that, but if that was instilled into me to the degree that it is now, when I was younger, then I wouldn't have had to go so far off the course.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, going back to the importance of father in the family, it is important, and I'm so blessed to have my mother and father with us today in the audience, and my mom and dad were very intentional in raising us, coming out of the Marines into ministry. I tell people, you talk about discipline. We had a disciplined lifestyle, folks. But it was important to them, that they raise us. And that's not to say that as kids, there were three of us, that we weren't challenges to them. But they raised us, and they raised us right and raised us well. And their right view was the Word of God. And the Word is important, and it was a solid foundation in our lives. And so I remember as a child, we were taught the Word of God at young ages. Every night at 8 o'clock, it was devotion time. And if even on up to the night before I got married, we were still having family devotions at 8 o'clock. You had the wedding rehearsal, you had a little bit of dinner, and then you had snack, and we still had devotions. And but my dad was always imparting the Word into us, and so even as little ones, the way he would teach it is that we would all have our Bibles out, and we couldn't read them, or or whatever. Maybe the words were too big for us, but he would read and then have us recite back to him what he read. And so as children, we learned chapters, we learned Psalms, and we could quote the Word and learn the Word. And him and my mom both just made sure that our family was established on the Word. And so we got a view of what fatherhood was like and what our parents were like, but as well as what our Heavenly Father, was like. And so for you, what will you do where the Word is concerned in your family?
I've had practice of carrying this message of salvation to strangers and to people struggling with addiction, and now I get to carry it to my family. And I get to be an example of a loving servant within my family.
That is so beautiful. Well, Travis, thank you so much for sharing with us your story. It's very empowering and how you had an opportunity at life again, and you discovered it in its abundance, and discovered the person that God's designed you to be. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. We'll be right back in just a few moments. Oh, hey everyone, Angela here. Have you ever wondered where I got this phrase, "It's a good time to be you"? Well, I am excited to share with you. It's going to be in my upcoming book entitled, It's a Good Time to Be You. So I look forward to sharing it with you. Be checking it out on Amazon.com coming real soon. Welcome back. We're here with Travis Barrow, and he's been sharing his amazing story with us about just discovering who he is and the value of life. And so right now, Travis, we're going to invite the audience, if they would, to ask some questions for you. And I think we have one over here on this side, this gentleman.
Travis, you said you had to forgive the gentleman that stabbed you. I'm wondering, did you ever have the opportunity to meet up with him again?
So not physically in person, but because he had come through the rehab, I reached out to him on social media, and I wanted to see if he would come and we could do a workshop for the rehab so the power of God could be displayed in that forgiveness. So I could say, hey, this man killed my best friend and he stabbed me, but I no longer hold that against him. He's forgiven.
Awesome. And what powerful message that would betray, and that would share. Yes, that's good. Do we have another question? I think over here. Okay.
So Travis, I'd like to also go back to that experience. Your best friend that was murdered, how did that impact you? What came of that?
So it ultimately, for a long time I had a lot of survivor's guilt, a lot of anger, especially towards the guy that stabbed us. And Craig was smarter than me, faster than me, stronger than me, better looking than me, funnier than me. And I couldn't understand for whatever reason why I made it and he didn't. And it really weighed heavy on my heart for a long time. And, still to this day, I know that I'm here for a purpose. I don't know why Craig died, but I do know that I'm here for a purpose, and that the Bible says unless a seed falls to the ground and dies, it can't spring forth new life. And so I think that unfortunately some of us have to die in order for the rest of us to see how serious this is.
Wow. It's very profound, Travis. And so Craig was the one that made that ultimate sacrifice so that you could have a story, to share that and discover your purpose beyond that lifestyle and move outside of a mindset of really what it all boils down to is being insignificant, you felt. And you're feeling something now. What is it?
I just kind of realized that I know firsthand what it's like to have someone die in your place.
Wow. And that's what Jesus did for us, isn't it? Yeah. He did that for us. He died in our place so that we didn't have to. Wow. Very profound. All right, we'll be back in just a few moments. Sweet sorrow. But Travis, we are so glad to have you here with us today. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Tell me, Travis, when did you realize it was a good time to be Travis Barrow?
When I realized that my life had a purpose.
Oh, I love it, and that's amazing. And so if you want to get in contact with Travis, maybe something that he has shared today has just impacted you, it's touched your heart, maybe there's something you can relate to, maybe you need a mentor. We want to invite you. His information is here on the screen. You can email him or you can Facebook him. And so Travis, how about at the count of 3? Let's tell everybody it's a good time to be you, okay? 1, 2, 3. It's a good time to be you. To contact Travis Barrow, just email him at savagetrab843@gmail.com. And remember, it's a good time to be you.